Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It is so good to be back here, to be with you all. A lot of time, I dream to come back here. It just feels like home, the spiritual home. I was here preaching about a couple years ago on the Holy Friday, Good Friday. A few of you were here, but I don't know if you still remember what I was talking about. I was talking about remembering 7 things that Jesus said before his death on the cross. Today we are celebrating Holy Thursday, as we are remember Jesus' Last Supper, the last night that he was on this earth. In our first reading, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron how the Israelites are to eat their last meal before they fled from Egypt. So each family was to roast a lamb and eat with their unleavened bread, and they have to eat with their loins girt, sandals on their feet, and their stick in their hands. They eat like they were in a rush. They were getting ready to go. They didn't even have time to wait for the yeast in the dough to rise. And every year since, our brothers and sisters, Jewish, remember this event. We call them Passover. Then St. Paul said to the Corinthians in the second reading, I received from the Lord what I also handed to you, that the Lord Jesus on the night he took the bread, gave thanks, gave it to his disciples, and said, do this in remembrance of me. And in the same way he did it with the cup. So to this day we continue to share the loaf of bread and the cup of wine in his memory. Remember that the last meal Jesus had with his friend, that we all remember what Jesus did and told his friends. So during the supper, he took off his outer garment. He took a towel, tied it around his waist. Then he poured the water into the basin and started to wash his disciples' feet. My brothers and sisters, can you imagine Jesus, the Master, the Lord, the teacher? He get down on his knees to wash his disciples' feet. At that time, you know, they didn't have fancy shoes like us nowadays, of socks, and they walked everywhere. They don't have cars. So imagine how disgusting their feet were. So then, after he washed their feet, he came back. He sat down to the table and said to them, you call me teacher and master, and rightly so. If I, therefore, the master and the teacher, have washed your feet, do the same. My dear friends, we call ourselves Christians. We are followers and believers of Jesus Christ. We do things what Jesus taught us. Over and over again, he taught us to be kind to each other, to serve one another. So there was an experiment from 3 young college students in New York City. They want to see how many strangers on the street would give them something to eat. So they get the camera and they went on. They dress like a normal person. So they went and they asked the people sitting at the restaurants, "Do you mind, can I have some of your food?" Of course, the strangers say no. So they went on to the second, to the third. They all say no. So they changed the idea, the second attempt. But this time, they want to buy a piece of a pizza, a box of pizza, and gave it to the homeless guy. So they went and gave the homeless guy the box of pizza. And then it went on. The third of the youngest in the college kids decided to test it out to see what happened if he come back to ask the homeless for the slice of pizza. So he came back and he dressed this time like a homeless person, a young homeless guy. So he came, he sat right next to that homeless guy. He said, "Dude, I'm hungry, I need a piece of pizza." And he did. The homeless guy handed him a piece of pizza. They both were enjoying the pizza. The young guy stood up, took out his wallet, gave him $300. He said, "Thank you for your generosity." So we come together today to remember our Lord through the celebrations of the Eucharist, His body and blood. Just like the Jews that remember their Passover meals. Every time we come to this church, we're here to remember. But when we leave here, this church today, we are also called to remember, to treat one another, to love one another, to wash each other's feet. Amen.